Hola Bafetu, welcome back. Welcome to the Baleni Football Channel. Kaizer Chiefs Football Channel, football from the fans' perspective. So it's a Kaizer Chiefs Football Channel, but today we're not speaking Kaizer Chiefs. You can see I'm wearing my red beret because I think there's an issue, there's a serious injustice that is taking place. We're discussing the case of Lucas Ribero and his unlawful imprisonment that is taking place somewhere in Chloorkop in Tshwane and Pretoria that we need to really speak about because it's a serious thing. It's an issue that has been, making rounds on social media, on the news outlet, in the entire football fraternity. And also it's something that has been happening if you realize this transfer window we've been dealing with cases of illegal imprisonment. I see Newcastle is imprisoning Isaac, and Cape Town City tried to imprison two boys of Kaizer Chiefs, and we heard Orlando Pirates also was trying to illegally imprison Saling, and this is something that we need to speak about. So we're speaking about Lucas Ribeiro Costa, which is a very, very good player, very talented player of Mamelodi Sundowns, was bought from Brazil in July 2023. We're told that he was sold by the team in Brazil with money worth 50 million rands, and he played season before, which in that season he was almost an understudy and a deputy of Tembazwane. And then the previous season he was a very, very good player. He had his proper season in South Africa last season, and he won player of the season. And then he went to play with Sundowns at the Club World Cup. I think he did very, very, very well. And that's where he used the stage to market himself. As all players should do anyway, use the stage to market himself, played very well, made sure that there is international recognition. Now that the boy has been recognized, he's 26 years old, and there are teams that are trying to sign him overseas, some in the European Union, some in Qatar, in different places. We're told, I'm just gonna read through the article by Disiki Times and make comments then there. But also we're told that there's also a similar issue with Letlaku. There's also a similar issue with Mudau, who's were told they are wanted by teams, some in Portugal, some in different places, and they are frozen now. They're not training with the teams, and there's complications around that. And I don't know why would Mamelodi Sundowns do that. And we're told that Mamelodi Sundowns is this team with a lot of money. They can afford any player, and they can afford any player. They've been doing that. They've been collapsing Super Sport right now. Super Sport was collapsed by Mamelodi Sundowns, and we must say this. And that's why I think really we need to really go and protest in Chloorkop and demand justice for these players. We're told as well that these players like Mudau, they are kept in maximum confinement, the same way you would see your KT Mulife, your Ket Matlala, the players at Sundowns who want to leave, they are kept at maximum in isolation. And that's something that the football fraternity has been speaking about, and I think we need to speak about. And so let me just go through the extracts of the article that was written by Disiki Times. So it says, Lucas Ribeiro Costa has requested to terminate his contract with Mamelodi Sundowns FC and has referred the matter to the FIFA Football Tribunal. Ribeiro has been absent from Sundowns training and was linked with a move to Qatar SC, while Fluminense were also said to be after his services. However, a deal never materialized. Insiders told this publication that the Qatari side has sent Sundowns a particularly generous transfer offer for the Brazilian attacking midfielder who wanted to join the Qatari club. But sources claim Sundowns attempted to drive up prices endlessly and in an unreasonable manner without any regard for the player's personal interest, which made the deal impossible. So this is the letter that is this is the publication, and then they also managed, the publication also managed to intercept the letter that was written by Lucas Ribeiro Costa, which is something that also I think almost everyone who's in football, who's interested in football right now, has read. And this is what the boy says. Lucas Ribeiro Costa says, "I believe that I have just cause to terminate my contract with Mamelodi Sundowns FC, which I will explain before the FIFA Football Tribunal. However, in any event, following the Diarra ruling by the CJEU, there is no doubt that the dispute between me and my former club will not prevent me from continuing my career with peace of mind. Indeed, following its own regulations as amended in light of the Diarra judgment, FIFA will see to it that the international transfer certificate be immediately delivered upon request by my future employer. I have received expressions of interest from various clubs, including some within the European Union, and I will now consider what is best for the future of my career in order to make the right choice, the one that will allow me to flourish as a sportsman and try to provide for the future of my family, knowing that a player's career is short and unpredictable." I think, so this is the letter that is written by Lucas Ribero Costa, and it's very interesting. One, he refers to Mamelodi Sundowns. The guy refers to Mamelodi Sundowns as his former employer. Clearly has made his decision, and clearly the relationships have, the relationship has really, collapsed between the club and the player, and he can't even refer to Mamelodi Sundowns as his current employer, which I think contractually he is currently employed by Mamelodi Sundowns. And then he refers to the next club that he believes he will join as his future employer. So it shows how deep the saga has been and how long it has been dragging. And the Lassana Diarra issue, there was an issue with Lassana Diarra when he was supposed to be signed, I think, by Chelsea from a club in one of the leagues around Europe, and he had to stay without playing football for over a year because they did not want to release him, and they wanted to hold him hostage. And that is the problem with that. And then FIFA made a decision and said, this is really not in the interest of the player, because remember, football is about the players. It's the players that play football. It's the players that go on the field, use their bodies, express their talent and entertain us, so that all of us can come, sponsors can come, people can contribute in the game. It is the players, if we are honest. But also players are contracted, and we must respect the binding nature of the contract. We must respect the sanctity of the contract. But at the moment where it looks like players are not respected, their wishes are not respected, and there's sabotage within the clubs, it becomes very, very unfair. It becomes very, very difficult. And it's something that must be dealt with, something that must be, addressed. I think SAFA needs to address this, because it is happening. It looks like it's happening everywhere. Can tell you with the two boys from Cape Town City who were held hostage when Kaizer Chiefs wanted to sign them, and they were told that they're still contracted to the club. But when we are told that the rules say if the club gets to be relegated to a point where they are not in a professional league, the contract loses its professional status, and therefore they become free agents. And today we are told that Cape Town City wants to come back. They want to claim some form of money. But at first, when Kaizer Chiefs offered that money, they refused it. They wanted to hold on to the players. You can't have such talent, and we are told that they can't go anywhere because somehow they are contracted to a club. Even if the club closes, we know that we are told, or we find out that it gets to now go back into playing in the streets, in the dusty streets, because they signed one day some contract and they must be held hostage, even when they're wanted by big clubs such as Kaizer Chiefs. Yes, as Kaizer Chiefs as a big club. It's a very worrisome thing. And I think one other important point that he mentions, the boy, is that he wants to go to a place, he will still go to a place that will allow him to flourish as a footballer. He's a very beautiful footballer. And also he will try, because as a sportsman, he needs to provide for his family, knowing that the player's career is short and unpredictable. I think this is a very serious point, because every time football players, retired football players cannot provide for their families, can no longer have the money to sustain themselves, we're the first ones to come out and bash them and diss them and say a lot of horrible things. And we forget how the clubs may have been involved in that, either by failing to give them, proper financial education and financial support, and by sabotaging their contracts and by doing a lot of horrible things. We've heard a lot of these horrible things, and I think this is very important. This is a very important point. The fact that he needs to go. I mean, if you are not wanted in Qatar, no one refuses Qatar. Big players in Europe are moving towards the Middle East to make money, to provide for their families. And football in Brazil, one thing that I've come to understand is that it has always, those boys take football as business, as an investment, as a way of providing for their family. And the fact that you want to keep a player for what? For what good purpose? It's not right, doesn't sound right. And this is a very painful one. And Mamelodi Sundowns released a statement, a very lousy statement. They are saying Mamelodi Sundowns' success is based on its deep commitment to the development, growth, financial sustainability of the club's players. The success and achievement of Mamelodi Sundowns over the past 2 decades has been based on its deep commitment to the development, growth, and financial sustainability of players. Which development of players, Mamelodi Sundowns? I want to understand which development are they talking about here in this statement. There's no development. They've been taking players. There's few players that have been developed from Mamelodi Sundowns, but we know for a fact they've been buying players from Supersport, from different clubs, from Kaizer Chiefs, even buying players for the sake of buying them. Mangoba Mngetu came out openly and said, we bought this player because we did not want competition, we did not want the other clubs to get the player. There's never been an interest of development of players, of financial sustainability of players. It's not there. Yes, they can give players lucrative contracts, but at the end of the day, we know what has been happening with the club. And then they continue, says Mamelodi Sundowns is committed to continue with this, or it says, so they are saying they are on discussions with other clubs, and the prices have not been met, so they will continue with these discussions and negotiations as part of its policy, deep commitment to advance the interests of the player and the club, as well as the fulfillment of the objectives of the interests of the parties. The players, technical team, management, board, and chairman of Mamelodi Sundowns, Pimotsepe, are all motivated and inspired to compete and succeed in all competitions in South Africa and Africa in the continent. So that's the thing. That's the thing, is that the statement Mamelodi Sundowns released is hogwash. It's nonsense. They're trying to cover themselves. We know they have never been interested in these things that they are speaking about. And they need to free the boy. They really need to free the boy. And just in closing, and one thing that I wanted to make comment on, we've seen this thing. I heard people commenting that Chiefs shouldn't have released the players, shouldn't have announced those players because there's still disciplinaries, appeals and everything. That is utter nonsense. I think I commend Kaizer Chiefs for the bold step they took for announcing the players, and they need to start really working with the players and preparing them to play. The 2 boys, Velebayi and Baartman. Because this thing of wanting to arrest players cannot be allowed and should not be allowed. And we must commend TS Galaxy, must commend Kaizer Chiefs, which have been one of the teams that never ever hold on to players. I've never had some saga of Kaizer Chiefs trying to hold on to a player, trying to sabotage the player's future. Even when a player is doing very well in the middle of the season, if he's wanted elsewhere, they sell. Something that we disagree with with some of us in that in the middle of the season, you really need to keep, your best players. But one thing that I can commend them on is that they never stand in the way of a player's interest. I was saying last in the previous video about the release of the boy that is now playing in TS Galaxy, Ditejana, who's doing very well right now. That Kaizer Chiefs was not selfish, and they did well in making sure that this player is released if they are not comfortable and they go play. And also, TS Galaxy has been one of the teams that release players that make sure that there is a deal, there's a fair deal, and they must go play as well. At the end of the day, football is about business. But the business is not only for the football clubs. Also, the players, the football trade is a player's business. And that must be respected. You can't hold on someone when it is clear right now they are needed elsewhere, and that will be a step up in their career, and then you need to release them. Would understand if Mamelodi Sundowns are saying we can't sell to Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates because those would be the immediate competitors. But to say if someone has to go overseas, you want to hold them hostage, really, I think that is unfair, and I think that must be condemned. Otherwise, Bafetu, I would like to hear from you, but I know what is everyone's opinion on this. I understand Mamelodi Sundowns fans who may want to defend, but I think everything that has been said and rumored around the club is now coming out, and is being exposed that they are dealing maliciously with players, they are dealing maliciously with clubs, and it is not true with that nonsensical statement they released. Not true that they are trying to get the best interest of the club and the players and everyone involved. In closing, I would have liked to speak about the preliminary squad that was released by Hugo Bros that has 2 Kaizer Chiefs players and a lot of players that some of them are not playing, like Khuliso Mudau as well, who's not been playing, and a lot of things that are happening. But I don't think it's worth speaking about, and I don't think Kaizer Chiefs fans should be worried about its players playing in the national team or not. I think one thing that is important that I've stressed is that improve the players' standards, improve the players up until we get to the point where we want them to be, where they can compete. The national team call-up for me is not a problem, and especially with Hugo Bros, there is part of him where he explains that it is about merit in other instances. It's not about merit, it's about keeping the team together, having the players that he trusts, the people that he knows, and the people that build up the mentality and the mood and the morale in the squad. So not everything in the Bafana squad is about merit, and it's fine. I'm fine with that. Why am I fine? Is because Hugo Bros, you can't question him for as long as he has produced the results, and that is what he has done. So that is what I think about it, and I don't think we should say more about it. We are much more focused on our club, and I think we must speak about this Sundowns thing because on Wednesday next week, Tina Siobashai, I know they might win this weekend, but on Wednesday next week they'll never make time. Let me hear from you. Otherwise, from me, Dibalin Football Channel, Kaizer Chiefs Football Channel, football from the fans' perspective. Away.